Padres Hot Tub is a listener-supported podcast. And if you're listening on our free feed, we say thank you so much for helping support us. You could take another step and go to patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub, where a large and ever-growing community of Padres fans has found one another and found the opportunity to have a lot of fun during the season. For example, this coming week, Padres Hot Tubbers are taking over a suite inside the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. And on Saturday, when the Royals are in town, so shall we be in town for a PHT Suite Night for the second straight year. Does that sound like something fun to you? Well, it's something that's exclusive to our patrons. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. How about a 6-tier fantasy league, promotion and relegation, restart baseball league, where you can go from the F league all the way up to the A with enough hard work? Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. How about a ticket marketplace where you can find reduced price or even free tickets to Padres games all the time? Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. And post-game shows, group therapy shows recorded live for our patrons and sent out exclusively to our patrons. For $5, what are we doing? Are we crazy? Have we lost our minds? Find out. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody. It's Craig, Chris, and Raphie. What the fuck did the Giants just do? What?
They just shot in our cereal, Craig.
Yeah, we were like really literally getting ready to start. And Raphie gave me this, guys. And I knew it was something, and I was praying that he was about to say, we just got our left fielder. He did not say that. Instead, he said the Giants got Rafael Devers, which is a fucking mile from being our left fielder. He's now their first baseman or DH or something for 10 years. We're only going to have to deal with him for 10 years. Okay. Well, we're here to talk about that and a survival month of June and a Diamondback series that should have been 2 out of 3 for us and was 2 out of 3 for them. And a Dodgers series that could have been 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3 for us and was 2 out of 3 for them. And now we're going to go play LA again for 4 games. And hopefully, well, at least they didn't trade for Rafael Devers. Chris, how are you?
Valid point right there. I mean, I would be freaking out maybe a little bit more. I'm doing great, dude. Maybe not as good as I would have been had the boys decided to turn on the bats even more last night. Bobby Bullets hadn't had the night he did, but doing okay. Like all told, a fun game this afternoon. Nick Pivetta regained his form in pretty prompt fashion after a couple of starts that we didn't like. I'm down here in San Diego for the week. Cannot wait for Sweet Life 2 this year at the Western Metal Building. Can't wait to see the familiar faces I met last year, meet some new ones, and get together with the Padres Hot Tub crew. So all told, doing quite well.
Rafe?
I think I was a bit worried after last night's really frustrating loss that that was a potentially destabilizing loss in terms of, changing the trajectory of the season. And, who knows? We might look back at the end of 162 and point to that game and say, oh, that was the one that changed this in the standings or whatever. But for now, the Padres coming back the next day, the offense being, yet again electric and showing up. There was a stat that was on the broadcast today that does not include today's game, but I had to take a photo of it because it stuck out to me. During games this season against the National League West, the Padres have scored over 6 runs a game. They have batted .285. They have hit .318 with runners in scoring position, and they have an OPS of .778. That is, again, not including today's 8-run showing, which obviously those numbers are higher. In all other games this season, the Padres have scored 3.5 runs. They've hit 234. They've hit 213 with runners in scoring position, and they have an OPS of 659. So this team's able to get it up against the division, which, it's like when I'm golfing and I hit a pure shot and I'm like, it's in the bag. I know it's in the bag. It's somewhere in the bag. That shot's in the bag. And so I'm looking at this Padres team who, after a brief Dodgers hangover on Friday, exploded for 15 runs in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's in the bag. It's in there.
I do want to point out.
But really interesting.
I just want to point out that a lot of those rounds are at Tecolote, meaning they're against the Rockies.
It's only been 3 games this season so far, though, right?
What, the Rockies?
Yeah.
We played them
six. We played them six games?
5-1.
2 series.
But regardless, it's a small sample against anyone. It doesn't matter. I think we know, though, enough that we don't have to fight back against the idea that the Padres get up for these games in division. They absolutely do. And they absolutely don't get up for American League games. And the team is 7 games under 500 against American League teams this year. And what are they overall now with today's win? 9 games over?
8 games over.
8 games
39
over.
and 31.
So we're 15 games over against the National League. So, here's what I have to say before we get into all the bigger overarching things. This is a month of survival. I'm going to keep saying that to the end of the month. This is not a month about going 21-6 or something. This is a month about surviving. You don't have Michael King. Yu Darvish is on the way back. You're starting every time through Strandy Vasquez, Stephen Kolek, and Ryan Bergert facing the best teams in the league, meaning the teams in your division. You're playing a streak of 13 in a row, a break 13 in a row, which added up. It's 26 out of 27. This team, it has to hang on. So you lose a game like you did Saturday night when you're up 7-3 going to the 9th and the 7, 8, 9 hitters are coming up for Arizona. That's disastrous. But the only real disaster is getting swept.
Yeah.
Getting swept is disastrous. Losing 2 out of 3 is a -1. Take your bogey, move on to the next tee box. That's what I think about this week is basically, yes, the Padres could have pulled out another game against LA, and they certainly should have pulled out another game against Arizona. They didn't, but they also didn't get swept in either circumstance. They have no King. They have no Darvish. They now don't have any Merrill. They didn't have a Tatis until he's been replugged in this week. So let's continue to survive and not get eliminated. And the advance part comes later in the season.
Yeah. I mean, just backing up what you said, Craig, Padres are 7-7 in June so far, which, I mean, it's again one of those, if you had told us 2 weeks ago thing, I think we probably would have taken, all things considered. And yeah, the distribution of some of those losses, 4 of them coming against the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers thus far, maybe not as optimal, but it really is about hanging on. And I think we saw some really encouraging things from Ryan Bergert last night. I think he's certainly showing, if not to be a viable long-term solution for the team, that he is a patchwork solution for the team and going 5 innings and 3 earned runs from your rookie call-up, it should not be disastrous for the team. And for a time, it looked like it would not be. Certainly before the Padres started scoring yesterday, the mood in the Discord and in the Padres online communities was quite dour because it was the second consecutive day in which the offense was seemingly not showing up. They did show up eventually, and it looked like they were going to pull it out. We're going to talk about the bullpen later. I just want to note that Robert Suarez, up until this point, has been remarkable this season. He's a human being. Trevor Hoffman had these games too. And you're going to have a handful of these every year from your all-star closer, which is very well what Robert Suarez might be for the Padres. So I'm not as bugged, especially because they won today. Because they won today and they did not let it get to their heads in a way that it could have.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the one loss I really can't even react to is when Suarez blows a big lead. What are you going to do? Padres bullpen is taxed. You should have taken out Suarez. He didn't have it. He gave up 3 hits in like 9 pitches or something. I mean, those first 3 guys came up. It was a bingle, a bingle, a bingle. No one was tattooing him. Bingle, bingle, bingle. Now Carroll is up. Who do you want to face him? You want Suarez to face him. Suarez strikes him out. The next guy up is Marte. Marte hits a ground ball to short. Problem is, it was a corkscrew ground ball. He hit the opposite direction with corkscrew spin. Bogaerts was playing him the other way. Bogaerts runs backwards to try and get him, and they replay him safe. If there's an out there, Suarez might get the next guy, and it's all over. Instead, he's back to a bases loaded situation. Things fall apart with Perdomo at the plate. Can never complain. What are you going to do? Get rid of Suarez? Don't worry. He's leaving next year anyway. Suarez haters, good news. He'll be gone next year anyway. Suarez lovers, hey, I get it. That's all of his earned runs have come in as 2 blown saves pretty much. So, there's nothing to be said. He blew a game. It sucks. Every closer blows a couple games. Usually every closer blows 4 or 5 games over the course of the year. So, that's one of those ones. It's in the bag. It stinks. I'm more disappointed in Wednesday or Monday, to be honest. Yesterday just stinks. There's nothing to be said about it.
And if I can just, on the back of that, it's worth remembering that, when Robert Suarez was tagged for a loss against the Angels on May 12th, he walked 4 guys in that appearance. Robert Suarez didn't walk anyone yesterday. They just hit the ball. They just hit the ball. And I think you could look back at that start against the Angel, or appearance against the Angels rather, and say, okay, like, he can't hit the strike zone. It's just one of those nights. That was not the issue yesterday. Like, your 7, 8, 9 hitters get base hits against him, suboptimal outcome, but it's not like he's walking the bases loaded, which he did against the Angels. So I think that makes it a slightly different situation.
Yes, because that night you're like, he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have it. But Suarez was throwing 100. He was hitting spots. It didn't work out for the San Diego Padres. It's on to LA. It's a 4-game set. Cease gets to start it off. Maybe the single best thing that happened this week is Dylan Cease pitched a dominant outing. And he had said for a week or two, I'm almost there. I'm getting close. I'm turning the corner. He turned the corner. Padres aren't going to get to the finish line without Dylan Cease delivering. I don't believe, I know alternate paths were discussed over the course of the last couple of weeks. There's no alternate path. Cease has to lead them. He has to pitch innings pitched, dominant innings pitched, because we don't have enough other starters. We just don't. He's got to do it.
Yeah, there was word that Yu Darvish pitched in a simulated game yesterday. I don't know how the fake hitters hit against him. So we're just waiting word for that. But apparently he's going to do 1 or 2 more of those simulated games, then go for a rehab assignment currently planned. I mean, he already pitched in a rehab assignment, and he has not pitched since. So, plans subject to change. But I mean, we said it on our last show. I can't remember if I was the main show or group therapy or whatever, but 70 innings from Yu Darvish this season is massive. Those expensive innings, but they are massive. And those are 70 innings that, Kyle Hart doesn't have to pitch, theoretically. If the Padres want to be making the playoffs, that's a huge swing.
Well, guys, let's get to the biggest story. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Go ahead.
The biggest story in baseball, and it's just crazy that over the course of the last several years, the Boston Red Sox have traded the three most important, best people in their system all to the National League West. The Dodgers got Mookie Betts. The Giants got Rafael Devers. And, of course, the Padres got Don Orsillo, which,
It's not a trade. We outbid them.
It's fair. Nonetheless, they let him go.
We have boats and bays and bay bass.
So everyone got something. That is my point. Everyone gets a piece of the Red Sox crown jewels. But today, literally right before we were about to hit record, the Boston Red Sox, and I didn't know that Nico Harrison was their general manager, but I just found out. And so that's exciting too. Traded Rafael Devers to the San Francisco Giants. The Giants get Devers' contract, which is really what's going on. And then they give up Matt Harrison. They give up Jordan Hicks, which I think they're happy to give up. And they give up two young players, Jose Bello, who is at the level of the Arizona Fall League, and James Tibbs, who has made it all the way to high A, coming out of Florida State. So not exactly their two best prospects, not even like close to their best prospects. This is money. And I think this is really important, guys, from Pete Abraham of the Boston Globe. It says, per Red Sox sources, the team's feeling was that a $313.5 million contract comes with responsibilities to do what is right for the team, and that Devers did not live up to those responsibilities. They had enough, and they traded him.
Yeah.
Well, good for you, Boston. Fucking sucks for us. Devers is a Giant.
Devers is a Giant through 2033. And, he was not willing to play third or anything but third base for the Red Sox. He very well might be playing first base or strictly DHing for the San Francisco Giants. That remains to be seen. One thing that I did want to note, because it's something that we don't really talk about frequently when we talk about the Giants, is that I have a very rare window where Roster Resource has not updated, but Spotrac has updated. So I have the before and after numbers. The San Francisco Giants payroll before they made the trade, this is cash payroll, was $174 million. Their luxury tax payroll was $215 million. So they were $26 million under the CBT threshold going into today. Now, with Rafael Devers on their team, their cash payroll is $192 million, and their luxury tax payroll is $222.6. So they are still $19 million under the first apron. The Giants have not historically been spending money in a market that certainly we wouldn't call small. I would call it a big market. And that's something that I know Giants fans have constantly ridden the Johnson family for not being willing to open up their wallet when their financials certainly say that they ought to be spending money, like the Dodgers, like the Cubs, like the Yankees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, this was purely a move where I guess Buster Posey got Charles Johnson to say, green light, you can spend a little bit more of my money. And that's all that this took, and when you're not burdened by massive contracts, frankly, in the way that the Padres are, you can take these swings. The Padres have already taken their swings, and the Giants hadn't, and they were able to do it on Devers, and that's what this is.
Well, the Giants have tried their absolute best to get burdened by huge contracts. They just haven't been able to say anyone to say, yes, I'll come play for you.
Yeah, Carlos Correa had the press conference set.
They did. Carlos Correa
gone.
Arson Judge gone. And they didn't in this one either, because Rafael Devers did not have a no trade clause and had not qualified for 510 protection. So this is not his choice. Matt Chapman just signed a really long extension to play third base for the San Francisco Giants, and he's not going to be able to do so for a little while here. But I don't know exactly if the situation is going to get better for Mr. Devers wanting to play the position he wants. We assume he's going to play first base or do what he does in Boston, but I find it interesting that he may not be going to his ideal situation that he might have been trying to manifest, making the big stinky diaper that he has been in Boston the past couple months.
Well, if the Giants wanted to play Chapman out of position at shortstop and Willie Adames out of position at second base in order to put the worst defensive third baseman in the league out on the field, I would welcome them making those moves.
Yeah.
But I don't think they will. I think they'll put Devers at first. They'll probably put Devers at DH. I think they'll just put Devers at DH and, say you were an all-star DH and now you're going to be an all-star DH. And Devers will probably say, thank God I'm free, until he sees the prevailing wind patterns at Oracle Park. And the Giants haven't had a 30 home run hitter since Barry Bonds. So, they've got a chance to have that now. It definitely makes them a different and significantly more dangerous team, having Rafael Devers and really giving up nothing. Matt Harrison is a good pitcher.
Kyle Harrison.
Matt Harrison is also a good pitcher, or he was in the 2010s. Kyle Harrison's a good pitcher.
Great guitarist.
Wonderful. Sitarist, too.
Rodney Harrison, great receiver.
Safety.
He can hit. He can hit. Hard hitting. He can bang. There are Harrisons. There are comparisons. Josh Harrison, pretty good utility infielder. But anyways, Kyle Harrison is a good pitcher. The Giants can withstand his absence. They didn't give up a guy like a Hayden Birdsong that is a big-time prospect in the organization. They're going to count on young guys like Roop and Birdsong to carry the freight. And they've still got room, as Raphie just said. If they need to add something more financially, they've still got room. The Giants are going to be a problem the rest of the year now. I was kind of hoping for them to fade. I don't know that that's going to happen anymore.
I just want to say, first of all, I said Rodney Harrison and I said great receiver. I was confusing that with Marvin Harrison. Rodney Harrison, of course, I know, incredible strong safety. Before people's thumbs start blowing up, I just want to apologize for that.
No, you guys send those emails to Raphie Cantor.
I know. I could feel the inbox blowing up. Rafael Devers, if the Giants want to make him their full-time DH, fortunately for Devers and the Giants, and unfortunately for us, he has no platoon disadvantage. He has this season he has a 902 OPS against lefties and a 907 OPS against righties. He's basically the same guy. He's a 148 WRC plus right now. He's gonna probably hit 30 home runs this year. He's already got 15 on the season. One thing I do want to note, according to StatCast, is that Devers has hit 222 home runs in his career. If he had played every game of his career inside of Oracle Park, that number drops to 200. Something to consider. But there are many splash hits for Devers in his future. I'm just genuinely, I have not been floored by a trade quite like this in a really long time, just because he's only in the second year. It's technically the third year of the deal, but one of those years was already his arbitration number that he had for his final year of ARB. So it's really the second year of this deal, and to send a player away like that, it feels somewhat unprecedented. So I'm just kind of still reeling a little bit.
It was an ugly situation. It was getting uglier. And what I wanted to say before we started talking about this deal is that I do not blame Padres fans for feeling like it's not all right. And for that, even though their record in June is an even 500 now, not to feel like the team needs to express some little bit of urgency in improving the roster. Because the Giants just 10 days ago kicked 3 players off of their roster, including Lamont Wade Jr., a guy who was like a key clubhouse guy. If Mike Schilt's talking about Lamont Wade Jr., he's talking about what a gamer is and what he brings to the clubhouse and how important he is on the team. And the Padres don't DFA him in the middle of the season. Well, since that shakeup, the Giants are 7-2. They lit a fire under their ass and they're playing some baseball. And the Padres are sitting here batting Luis Arias second all season long, no matter what the results are, hanging their hat on veteran leadership and vibes in the clubhouse, and they're limping along. And the Giants just got a whole hell of a lot better. And now the Padres need to do too.
Well, the Giants shot their shot, and they had the shot to shoot, as Raphie said.
Yeah.
I was just seeing on Blue Sky, Molly Knight writes something, and I really, really agree with this. The Giants have learned definitively they cannot get elite hitters to take their money to come to play in their park as a free agent. The only way they were going to do it is in a trade just like this, to get a pre-existing Giant contract and trade for it and get that guy over. It was either that or a massive, massive overpay. And they haven't even been able to overpay to get a Harper or a Judge to come west. So trading for Devers makes all the sense in the world. The Giants had the money to spend. They've now spent it. Now, let me not be doomer, okay? They spent it on a player.
All right, go ahead. Go.
I'm not saying you're doomer. I'm just saying let me not be doomer.
All right.
I'm not saying anyone else is being anything. I'm just, all things considered, all the great players in baseball that have $300 million contracts, Devers is down the list for the player I want to hang my team on, because he's a one-way only player. He is not a physical specimen. The possibility of him being injured or far less useful, I'll just give Prince Fielder as an example of a guy who at Devers' age you thought was going to be something and 3 years later was completely a different thing. And I don't, unlike a Machado, who I think is going to age very well, or even a Betts or an Ohtani or a Freeman, who I all think are going to age pretty well. Devers is a guy that I wonder about. So the Giants have accepted all of that risk. They didn't really have to give up a ton. They had to give up a pitching Harrison, Jordan Hicks, who's really nothing special, and a couple of low minor leaguers. We didn't have the wherewithal to get a guy like this. And so we just have to grin and bear it and try and beat the Giants. It's one more tough bat in a great division, and everyone will be up for the challenge.
I don't think they have to grin and bear it. I think they need to get a left fielder, like now, like this week, like in the next 10 days.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, they've needed to get a left fielder opening day ago, unfortunately.
Exactly one, yes.
If the downstream effect of this is that it lights a fire under AJ Preller's ass to make some sort of move, then, I'll take whatever ancillary benefits we can get from this. I don't really know that there's much to say. I mean, just to put a button on this from my standpoint, when we had talked about the Giants in the past, I had been saying that they don't really scare me. And the reason I had said that was because I didn't think that their offense really scared me. Their offense scares me a little bit more now with Devers in the lineup. I think that the one thing that they had in spades, that they were the only team in the division that had this, was pitching depth. They really had a deep well of guys and guys coming back, and one of whom is Justin Verlander, to draw from. They just traded away, two of those guys. And while certainly Kyle Harrison, at one point he was their best prospect and he's still a young player pre-arb, like I think that matters. I think that it matters that Kyle Harrison is no longer a Giant. And whatever you think about Jordan Hicks, those are two for real major leaguers. And when you get late in the season, sometimes you're going to want those innings. I mean, maybe it's June 15th and you're on a team that needs innings from real major leaguers. This is part of the gamble that the Giants have made, is that they're leveraging their strength. But one of the things that I think is a baseball truism is that you never have too much pitching. And the Giants essentially, by making this trade, said, we have a little too much pitching and we can trade from it. So, we'll see how that shakes out for them.
Well, I couldn't agree more that the Padres need to do something. I don't want to go, well, they have to trade for a left fielder in the next week. They need to trade for a left fielder. If I don't want them to make a bad trade in order to meet an arbitrary deadline. I need them to make the right move. But what bothers me, the thing that bothered me the most about the entire week, and I went on and on about it on both the post-game show and a group therapy, which one of them might have gotten to the free feed or not, I'm not sure. But the only thing that's really bothered me this week is seeing Gavin Sheets, who's having a great year for the San Diego Padres, such an important part of this team. But he's facing elite left-handed relieving in our division. And that's not okay. That should never happen in any type of playoff situation, which these division games, they track to playoff-like games. They have playoff-like intensity. It's intense enough that Mike Shildt made the right move on Wednesday and pulled Randy Vasquez after 18 batters faced, rather than have him face the third-time order through penalty, even though he had pitched 4 2/3 innings and had only allowed 1 run. Well, if you're willing to make that move, which is undisputedly the right move, you have to bat a right-handed batter for Gavin Sheets. And when the answer is, well, the right-handed batter we have is Luis Campusano and he's no good. Okay, get rid of him. Literally get rid of him. If you guys have decided as an organization that Luis Campusano is just useless, get rid of him. Get rid of him yesterday. Get rid of him a week ago. Stop leaving Mike Shildt with no option. Maybe if you delete Campusano from the roster and put something over there, a fucking 8x10 of Matt Carpenter, just hanging in the corner, maybe he'll use Iglesias more in those spots. Maybe he'll do something a little bit different. But we're missing things on the margin right now. Iglesias is a little bit underused. Campusano isn't being used at all. Maldonado has theoretical value for shaping a pitching strategy, I guess. So he's kind of like Ruben Niebla's understudy, maybe, but we're still giving him a big league uniform and cleats. Niebla doesn't have cleats. At least he wears sneakers, we're still giving Maldonado cleats and a bat. So, I mean, and Brandon Lockridge, look, he's going to have to play some outfield right now with Jackson Merrill just getting his bell rung on Saturday night. So I'm not going to say, well, you got to get rid of Brandon Lockridge too. But Brandon Lockridge is going to hit 200-ish with a 600-ish OPS on his best day. And you just hope he catches the ball. That's 4 spots. You get 13 for your hitters. So we're going to have a hard time keeping up with the Joneses if 4 of our spots are occupied thusly.
Yeah, these are the moves I'm talking about, Craig. I'm not saying you need to go out and get a $300 million franchise player, but the Padres need to get some right-handed bats, and then they need to utilize them once they're in there. You talk about Gavin Sheets. This is what I was talking about with the Padres continuing to bat Luis Arraez second. It seems like it's been super stubborn managing on Mike Shildt's part, refusing to have somebody else take those right-handed bats, be it Jose Iglesias, who probably shouldn't be designated hitting. He should be out there on the field somewhere, but he hasn't been in the lineup against every lefty, and it makes no sense. The dude has a 763 OPS in his career batting against left-handed pitching. And I could go it further to Jake Cronenworth, who has come through with some really big moments this year. He hit a home run today. It looked great. Love it. But traditionally, throughout his entire career, dude hasn't been great against left-handed pitching. Yet he gets declared an everyday player, and it's like some sort of tenure that Padres players are granted. Gavin Sheets gets declared an everyday player, so they just leave him in. And it seems very backwards. It seems very anti-analytical. And it goes along with Luis Arraez continuing to bat second. What are we, 60 games into the season? And there's been no adjustment, even though he's having his worst year of his career. He's making terrible pitch decisions. We saw him today swing at a pitch that hit him. The pitch hit him. It was exactly what you're talking about. Before the ball's thrown, he's like, all right, swinging at this one. got to hit the button when it comes. And he hit the button, and it hit him. And, of course, Nando wound up scoring because Manny Machado had a great piece of hitting. But now that Fernando is starting to turn on a little bit, he still hasn't hit a home run against a fastball, which when he does that, he will be all the way back. But if we're going to have Nando doing what he's doing, get multi-hit games and leading off the top of the order in a dangerous manner, and then just keep Luis Arraez behind him until the trumpets sound, until Judgment Day, like that's just stubborn, man. And I think it's a problem. And I think that the club needs to make moves to bolster its platoon matchups and then use them.
Just to continue the discussion. So you're saying, I mean, because I don't disagree. Luis Arraez has not hit well. Okay. The Padres this year have gotten the worst version of Luis Arraez so far this year. They've gotten every piece of his defense. They've gotten every piece of his base running. And they've gotten every piece of his lack of power.
And his swinging at everything. His terrible, terrible.
All of his chase
decisions. Yes.
Straight up, a Luis Arraez that hits anything under 310 isn't a very useful player in baseball, which made his 313 average like you're barely useful. Really, Luis Arraez has to hit 330, 340 to be a useful player in the big leagues. And so I don't disagree with what you're saying. But having said that, practically, are the Padres actually going to do that? No, they're not going to. They're not going to pull Arraez down in the lineup. Now, it would probably take a month of him.
Here's my question:
for them to even think about it.
Is that born out of anything other than stubbornness? And I say that word knowing full well, right? It could help you out in the long run, but it just seems born completely out of stubbornness, and that has to shift. Otherwise, they're not going to get where we want them to go.
Go ahead, Rafe.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, we had this discussion. We've had this discussion multiple times, and it's just that the Padres value veteran leadership, and they value their people's intangibles. I mean, some might say egos, more than they do putting out the Stratomatic, optimal best lineup. I think that's something that's clear. It's something that we constantly bemoan when saying, like, why don't we do things like teams like the Dodgers do? And they just haven't done it. They haven't done it the entire time that I've done this show. They weren't doing it before I did this show. And my sense is that they probably won't do it after we do this show. It's just a baked in thing with, as long as AJ Preller is the general manager and Mike Schilt, who is one of his guys, is his manager, like, they're going to be setting the lineup where, guess what? Tatis is your leadoff hitter every day. Guess what? Machado's going to hit third, even though he should probably hit fourth. Guess what? Merrill's hitting behind him. Like, guess what? Bogarts is hitting fifth, which, by the way, I just really, really brief diatribe because this absolutely blew my mind. Xander Bogaerts in 2025 is hitting the ball better than he did in 2022, his last season with the Red Sox, when he put up, I'm pulling it up now, 6 WAR and hit 307, 377, 456. And let me tell you why. His expected WOBA that year was 323. His expected WOBA this year, 322. His expected batting average that year, 259. His expected batting average this year, 264. His expected slug that year was 383. His expected slug was 386 right now. His average exit velocity that year, 88.1. His average this year, 89.9. His launch angle that year, 10.2. His launch angle, 12.9. The launch angle sweet spot percentage in 2022 was 30.3. This year, 36.8. He's a better hitter this year. And yet, he's up. Of course, he's not. Like, we're in a results-based business. So I don't really know what to make of that. I just wanted to say that as a brief diatribe to what we're talking about now. They're never going to change the lineup. I just know that in my bones. They're never going to change the lineup.
Bat him second, Raphie.
I mean, look, Jake Cronenworth today had like an 11 pitch at bat. I forget if it was
Elite.
10, 11, or 12.
10 pitches.
10 pitches that ended with a home run.
Sure. It was
Would I
against a
like to
right-handed
see
pitcher.
that? Would I like to see that in the 2 spot
Yes.
instead of a rise?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. However, do they believe that if you put Jake in that situation that he'll respond the way you think he will? I don't think they do. There can be a human element to this that we are unaware of because we're yokels on mics, saying do this, do that, you should, but we're not in there. And those are the kind of things I think of. They line up the lineup the way they line up the lineup, not because they're big dummies, but because they honestly think it's the right thing to do. I believe the type of version that is idealized of Luis Arraez makes sense sitting second, just like I believe that FTJ should be the leadoff man. I was the guy who was saying a week and 2 weeks ago, you should push him down the lineup. I look like the big dummy this weekend when he gets 8 hits and walks a couple of times and scores a ton of runs and restarts the Padres lineup and is a great leadoff hitter. They stuck with him at leadoff. And so they're gonna pay the penalty when he's bad, and they're gonna reap every single penny of dividend when he's good. And that's their attitude when it comes to Luis Arraez, is that when he's good, they're gonna reap every penny of dividend by getting him out of there. Do I disagree? I don't. I don't think anyone disagrees with what you're saying, Chris. It's just kind of like arguing with the IRS or something. Like, I mean, I agree, but what am I gonna do? They're not gonna change it.
Sometimes that works, Craig. And I just want to button it up with this. If the Padres don't make the change that leads to them scoring more runs, all that is going to do is put more strain on their high leverage relievers that have to hold 1-run, 2-run, 3-run leads. And they've already used those guys way too much.
They have. And part of that, of course, is the starting pitching. The team has scored 6+ runs in 4 of their last 6 games. And that's the most we can really ask for. We can never ask them to score 6 runs every single game. But if they're scoring that level going forward the rest of the month, we're going to be very happy that we won't have fallen apart by the end of the month. This team needs to get more depth out of their starting rotation, to get more length out of them. Today was huge to get 7 innings out of Nick Pivetta. By the way, Brandon Lockridge made an amazing catch up against the wall to deny a triple. And that might have been the moment in the game, because you just never know with the Diamondbacks. If you give them that momentum of a triple right there, what might follow. So that was a gigantic moment in today's game. But there's no question about it. Adam is not the same guy he was in April. Adam is now a guy who comes and gives up a couple base runners, kind of wiggles his way off the hook. Estrada has given ground lately. Morejon looks great. Suarez Saturday, what are you going to do? But eventually the Padres must improve. I think we all agree. And so we're kind of waiting for Godot here. It's like,
Yeah.
We all agree they must improve. We all probably further agree that if they don't improve at all, that eventually, slowly, excruciatingly, over the next 3.5 months, this will wither and trickle away, and we'll either creep into the last spot or we'll fall out of the last spot, But I do have faith that they are going to improve this team. I do. I just don't know that they're going to do it tomorrow. And the Giants did it today. So, again, it's not woe is me. Bully for you, San Francisco. Bully for you. The Diamondbacks tried like hell to improve their team. And Burns is out. And Montgomery is out. And they paid $57 million for one win. One WAR this year. Like, they tried. The Giants are trying. Adames, Devers. Is it going to work out for them? I don't know. We're all chasing LA. We're all chasing LA. And the Padres get to go to LA now. I don't know, guys. I feel like they came out of the Diamondbacks series about as well positioned as they could. They didn't have to torture their bullpen. Today in particular, they got a lovely rest for the bullpen. I think they're going in reasonably fresh and leading the way. Dilettante Dylan, allow him to continue to be dominant and not disappointing.
Yeah, I think it was really important for the Padres to just get at least one win out of the series for the obvious reasons, but also because that means that we're currently recording this in the middle of the Giants-Dodgers game, so we're not going to have that result by the time this podcast ends. But at the very worst, the Dodgers will be 3 games ahead of the Padres, which means that theoretically, the Padres could have the division lead at the end of the week. If the in terms of the error bars on this week, the Padres could be one up on the division, or they could leave LA 7 games back on the division. So, I mean, I try not to speak in hyperbole, but this is probably the Padres. They're not going to win the division this week, but they could lose it this week. They could absolutely lose it in this series. You get swept, gone, over, donezo. So, I look ahead to the Dodgers' probable pitchers, and this is according to Roster Resource. Shout out to Jason Martinez. But the Dodgers are throwing, this is sequentially from Monday to Thursday, Ben Kasparius, which is, of course, a bullpen game, Emmett Sheehan, Matt Sauer, who was sacrificed at the altar last week, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto on Thursday. So obviously those are estimations from Jason Martinez, but that is a gettable Dodgers lineup. That is a very gettable Dodgers rotation that is set to go against us. So look, again, you go 1-3 and it's -2. It's really tough on the division, but that doesn't kill your season. You go 2-2. I would say that's a win. Obviously, anything more than that is gravy. But just like with just like with Arizona, and like you said, Craig, this is a month of survival. And I just think the bar has to be, you cannot get swept. You have to take one. You take one, you're okay. If the Padres get swept, that's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
No, it is. And that's why, I really sympathize with Chris's frustration and his call for we need something now, because when you just add Lockridge to the lineup, keep Wade in the lineup, add Maldonado tomorrow, it's really getting chunky at the bottom of the order for the San Diego Padres. So if you had a real left fielder, and look, bless Tyler Wade. He's a fine 26th player. But anytime he gets 2 weeks of at-bats in the big leagues, you understand why he doesn't get 2 weeks of at-bats in the big leagues. Why it's not a good thing. The 3 for 30 comes in a real hot hurry with Tyler Wade. And you see that one hit and you're like, ooh, hey, Tyler's slapping it the other way, man. And then like the just constant flyouts. This out. You get it eventually. So yeah, it's scary that the Dodgers roll up like Edman in a spot where we roll up Maldonado. And that when we bring in Morahone for a big spot, they're going to switch out. Whether it's a Muncy or a whoever, back in the day, Outman, but they'll switch out their platoon guy for the other side of it. We will leave our platoon guy in, and they'll just laugh and take the dividend and go, okay, +1, there's a strikeout in this inning. And that's how they won 2 games against us last week, and it's probably how they'll win a game against us, if not more, this week. Eventually, if we get to a point where the Padres have a complete team again, like they did in August and September last year, then I'll say we can go toe-to-toe with these guys, and it's just going to come down to the breaks of the game. Right now, we're not there. So, it's a matter of literally hanging on and not getting buried.
Hey, with Fernando going again and Manny going, that's the bulwark the team is built on. It just like it, we came into the season yelling about Yuli and Martin Maldonado being on the team, and I think Tyler Wade, Jose Iglesias, Brandon Lockhart, hey, that's a solid bench, especially if Diaz is your backup catcher, which not convinced he's ever going to be this year. But like I said, it's going to be a really tight in the National League West this year, and I don't think waiting for the deadline is going to cut it. And we already see people online and even in the Discord talking about the Padres being sellers, and that blows my mind. It's such a weird reaction to 500 ball for a few months. But without the early season success, that's where the club is. And, at 500, then the reaction of wanting to be sellers makes more sense, which it doesn't, like I said, now at all.
People are weird, man. I'm sorry. That's insane. They're 8 games over right now. They're 3 games out of the division lead. They're I don't know even where they are in the wild card right now. They're in the 3rd spot. They're 1.5 up on the 3rd spot. People are weird.
I spent a little more time.
There are weird people.
I know, and I love our weird people. I do, but I don't tend to spend a lot of time in our watch party channel in our Discord. And I'm going to tell you the number one reason why is not the content, although I'm about to discuss the content. The number one reason is that usually my TV is 45 seconds behind at least the Discord, so I can't watch it and enjoy the game. The Discord just tells me what happens. I see a string of fuck. I know that this next pitch isn't going to be good, or 3 pitches from now isn't going to be good. That's what makes it horrible. But I was spending a little more time in there over the weekend, and literally our team fell behind 3-1. And people aren't just saying game when they fall behind 3-1 in the 4th inning. It's game, and it's moving on to Chris's soliloquy. And why didn't they get the trade done? And why haven't they changed the catcher yet? And why? And Schilt is so this and so that. I'm like, there's 5 innings left, and literally the team then took a 5-3 lead and built it out to a 7-3 lead. And at some point I wrote just game ? Is this game now? No. And it turned out, you know what? It wasn't. And whoever was in fucking Diamondbacks outfield pool splashing around going game, probably where Tevin spends the rest of his time over there.
It's the snake pit.
Yeah. Those people were wrong too. The Diamondbacks have come back from 4 runs plus down in the 9th 4 times in the first half of this year.
Yeah.
That's insane. They have 8 grand slams. That's insane. Baseball's stupid. All the time. It's dumb. So why would anyone ride on the fucking acid waves that it creates for you? I mean, you can do it, but it's actual insanity. It leads you to crazy town.
I want to get into a few things because you're right, Craig. 162 games, 9 innings a game, 3 outs an inning, and a lot can happen within all of those subsets of numbers. I want to get us to the bullpen because we know they're under stress, and I just want to give you a little context on the Horsemen, if that's all right, just where they're at this year compared to years prior. Because they've been pitching in a lot of tight games, and they've been really good in them. Jason Adam leads Major League Baseball in appearances. And the fastest that he's ever gotten to 35 games, where he's at right now, was only 11 days faster than he's done it. So he's getting ridden, but he's not getting ridden in a way that he would be completely unaccustomed to, right? It's maybe at a 15% higher pace than his years prior. And I think he's got it in him, but like you said, we already see him be a little bit worse of a pitcher now than he was earlier in the year. Adrian Morejon, the fastest he's ever gotten to 32 appearances was July 13th. That's a month ahead of time. Adrian Morejon is setting a crazy higher pace than he ever has. And the same for Jeremiah Estrada. Fastest he's ever gotten to 34 appearances was July 14th. Now Suarez is under the same pace that he was last year, but you guys remember what happened to him last year in the end of the season?
Yeah.
Yeah, we wore down.
He wore down. And right now the Padres' 5th and 8th leverage relievers, which are Logan Gillespie and Alex Jacob, are not on the team, and the 6th and 7th are Wandy and Yuki. So
yeah, I mean, this isn't just a product of this is a product of both the starting pitching, but it's also a product of the offense.
Yes.
You're not scoring a lot of runs, so you're forcing your high leverage relievers in because all games are close when you're not scoring a lot of runs and you're holding people in. I mean, this goes back to the watch party discussion, but like another truism is that for baseball fans in real time, no manager has ever managed their bullpen well. Like, it's just no one's ever managed the bullpen well. But if you hit them with, the Padres have an ERA of 3.23 out of their relievers this year, and arguably of a top 5 bullpen, I'd say part of that is the way in which it's been deployed. But no manager. Schilt is terrible at bullpen usage, whatever. No, it's just like, you pull levers, and sometimes you pull a lever and it doesn't work. And that's baseball. And that's like what it is. I think for the most part, we can have the up-down discussion if we want to have it. But, that's his little picadillo that I think we have certain feelings about. But I think for the most part, Mike Schilt and Ruben Niebla done a pretty good job managing the bullpen. Like, they just had to use it a lot because of the position they've been in. So what are you going to do,
100%. I actually think their bullpen usage has been, it's not perfect, but I'd say it's been close to ideal. And you're supposed to ride your bullpen harder the first half of the year than you are the second half of the year, because that's when they're the freshest and that's when they're the most effective. They're going to wear down, just like every bullpen in history wears down. And that's why it was so important last year that at the deadline, the Padres got Jason Adam and Tanner Scott and Brian Hoeing, and adding all of those fresh arms into their pen. Now, those guys were wearing down for their various teams, Tampa Bay and Florida, but they get that injection of going to a new team. So, you hope for that going forward for the San Diego Padres. But, it's really boring podcasting, but it's like, if Michael King never comes back, the equation fails at some point. You just put too much stress on the bullpen, and then eventually the bullpen will break. If Vasquez can't add an inning to his outings, if Cease can't start giving you 7 innings on the regular, those things haven't been happening. And so because of that, the Padres have had to use their bullpen more. If Darvish came back and started throwing 7 innings, if Cease threw 7 innings every outing, you would get a better situation. But I think they've done what they've had to do. And I kind of feel like you feel about a tire, the tread's wearing out. Well, we're in the race. We're not going to pull over and change the tires right now. So let's hope that they stay together as we keep driving.
I'm pretty sure that if you're in the race, you have to change tires. I don't know if this is a ruse situation. I don't have a book of Formula One.
It's not a perfect analogy, but late in the race, there are these moments. Do I pull over and change the tires? Do I keep going? I don't feel like the Padres have time to pull over and change the tires right now.
I think that's right. And I as someone who had a brief Formula One phase after Drive to Survive, the analogy is good. Sometimes, you want to put the soft tires on, but you're worried that they're not going to last throughout the race, but they are, of course, faster. So, it's a gamble. Sometimes it's a gamble that you make. It's actually a very equivalent metaphor to hanging with the pitcher a little bit too long. And you're just like, I hope it pulls out. And, maybe one time you hit a corner a little too hard and then you start skidding. And certainly happened for the Padres in 2021. So
that's the Randy Vasquez contingency.
Yes, exactly. There's some skidding.
The only way out
is
to
start calling huge F1 fan.
Yeah, I'm going to start calling him Houdini pretty soon. I like Strandy, but he's getting into Houdini territory.
Yeah, really not looking forward to him facing the Dodgers on Tuesday, right? Tuesday? Tuesday?
Yes, Tuesday
Yeah.
against Emmett
Just
Sheehan.
score 12 runs.
Well-
Score 12 runs, Padres. Give your boy some support. He's going to need it.
Emmett Sheehan. Which one of his songs is the most popular?
He was a great Lannister on Game of Thrones. That's all I remember.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna do the Craig doesn't know the name. That's now just a complete bit. I'm gonna just ride this bit into my ensuing dementia, so that it's very hard for you to know where the line.
Yeah,
was.
we never know. It's
Was
just
he
going to be like,
kidding?
oh,
Has
What's
he
the
lost
indicator
it? Was he
gonna be?
kidding? What happened?
yeah.
Okay. Anything further, gentlemen, before we adjourn for the evening?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think sometimes, especially on the right, we were hitting the record button and the Devers news broke. So I just want people to understand that. So we are not a glum lot. I still can't emphasize enough.
I
that
thought
really
you guys
like
were
this
too
team.
positive. I thought you guys were too stoked. I'm glum. I'm glummed the F out.
I was surprised at your glumness today, Chris. But again, it's like I will continue to be optimistic about the Padres so long as their problems remain imminently solvable, which they are. Just get a left fielder. You get a left fielder, and this team is so much better immediately. So I will continue to be bullish on them. That's my positivity corner, I guess you could say, to end the episode on. And hey, go punch him in the mouth in LA.
The left fielder is not going to be Jaron Duran, I'll tell you that much.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, by the way. I think that you're not trading Leo DeVries or something for Jaron Duran when you can go get.
Hang on a second. You don't think that AJ looks at this deal and goes, "Oh no, shop's open in Boston. Now I can go harder and get what I want."
I don't know. The Sox just swept the Yankees. They're a game over 500 now. I think it's a little too early for them to be selling. And I think Devers was a very unique situation where it was a toxic player in a bad sitch, and they hit the eject button. So I don't quite think that this changes things.
Yeah,
what I'm worried about, frankly, is that AJ Preller does take that conclusion, but the Red Sox say, well, we're not willing to sell yet. So then AJ Preller waits another 6 weeks to make a deal until the Sox are officially out of it. And now we played another 6 weeks with a, Lockridge, Jason Hayward, Trenton Brooks platoon and have lost games because of it. So instead of just going and trading for Jesus Sanchez or Austin Hayes or Taylor Ward or any of those guys,
Yeah.
Luis Robert.
Yeah.
He's just money. That's all he is. He's money. That's it.
He's also
same thing.
Not as good as he used to be.
A bad hitter too. You could have him hitting 180.
He runs fast. He's like Brandon Lockridge with danger. He's like razor blade Brandon Lockridge.
Right. Yeah. He'll give you all the production of Brandon Lockridge with the added exciting promise of, well, he could be a lot better than that, though. I know he's hitting 200 with a 600 OPS, but have you seen him? He's really cut, and he might do a lot better. Now, he's never gonna, but he might. So let's trade for that. No,
he's going to look good in the City Connects.
Yeah. Year 2 versions too. Okay. Padres Hot Tub, Dodger series coming up. Buckle in, folks. Buckle in. Go Padres.